Welcome to this incredibly special, uh, custom-tailored deep dive,
Yeah, we are so glad you're here.
because today we're diving into a stack of sources you specifically brought to us.
You handed us the gritty and unapologetic narrative of Blood and Roses.
Specifically, Volume 1 by Callie Hart.
Right. And when you told us to look into this, you really weren't kidding around.
No, you really weren't. Okay, let's unpack this, because since you provided the source material, you already know the plot.
You know, we are plunging headfirst into the absolute deepest, darkest corners of Seattle's criminal underworld.
Yeah, this isn't your standard romance.
Not at all.
But what we're going to do today is tear off the top layer of this narrative and look at the engine running underneath.
We are looking at a desperate medical student,
A ruthless syndicate enforcer.
the absolute horrors of human trafficking.
And the extreme, sometimes terrifying lengths human beings will go to for the people they love.
It really is a harrowing set of sources you've given us to analyze.
It is.
And I think that's exactly why it warrants such a meticulous breakdown.
Absolutely.
But before we get too far into the psychological weeds, we do need to provide a clear content warning based on the guidance provided right at the beginning of the text.
Yes, please.
Because this source material contains incredibly heavy themes. We are going to be extensively discussing graphic violence and human trafficking.
Murder.
Murder, yes. Psychological abuse, coercion, substance abuse, and explicit BDSM elements.
It's a dark narrative intended for mature audiences.
And it absolutely does not shy away from the visceral realities of the world it builds.
Exactly. So with that in mind, the mission of today's deep dive is to really pull back the layers of this story you've brought us.
We want to explore the intense psychological warfare that goes on between our two main characters.
Sloane and Zeth.
Right. And really examine how trauma fundamentally rewires human behavior.
We're looking at two people who have been entirely shaped by their proximity to darkness and violence,
We want to move beyond just what happens to them.
and figure out why their reactions to this trauma are so deeply compelling.
What's fascinating here is how the author uses physical darkness and sensory deprivation right from the start to strip away societal norms.
Oh, yeah, the darkness is almost a character itself.
It really is. The narrative frequently places characters in situations where their physical environment forces them to confront their rawest, most primal instincts,
It's a storytelling device that strips away the civilized veneer.
leaving only the survival instinct and repressed desires behind.
That dynamic is perfectly illustrated right at the beginning of the text with that infamous bargain in the dark.
Let's really look at our protagonists here.
Sloane, she's a 20-something medical resident.
And when we first meet her, she describes herself as a ghost.
Not literally, of course.
Right, but she says she's the girl in the background. Average height, average weight.
The person people look through instead of at.
Exactly. She slips through the world without smiling, without speaking to strangers for days.
And that self-description is incredibly telling from a clinical perspective.
She is actively trying not to exist in a meaningful way.
When severe trauma hits.
In her case, the unresolved disappearance of her sister Alexis.
Right. One of the most common coping mechanisms is to simply shrink.
To become invisible so that the world cannot hurt you anymore.
But her presence at this specific location
A downtown Seattle Marriott hotel.
is the exact opposite of shrinking.
It's a bold, desperate, and incredibly dangerous act.
Right, because we have to look at why she is there.
She's on the 42nd floor of this hotel,
Checking in with no bags
booking for one night.
and leaving a spare key card at the front desk for Mr. Hansen.
And the reason is horrifying.
She has made a bargain with a sleazy private investigator named Eli.
For 6 months, Sloane has been trying to find her kidnapped sister Alexis, who she calls Lex.
She's hit dead end after dead end.
And Eli operates out of this depressing, foul-smelling studio above a liquor store in Rainier Valley,
He is apparently a drug-dealing pimp on top of being a PI.
which is a terrible combination. And he told her that money isn't enough.
He wants a favor.
He explicitly tells her, you spread your legs for a paying customer, and I'll tell you everything you need to know.
It's the ultimate exploitation of vulnerability.
Eli recognizes that Sloane is entirely out of options.
She states that this is her absolute last resort.
If we analyze Sloane's psychological state here, she's utilizing her medical training to detach herself from the horror of what she's about to do.
She tells herself the body is just a machine.
Full of cogs and intricate parts.
She rationalizes that intercourse is just a biological function of that machine, nothing more.
This is a classic example of dissociative emotional detachment.
She is actively compartmentalizing her trauma.
She even pops a Valium obtained through her hospital connections to artificially flatten her terror.
She takes the Valium, puts on a black satin mask with blood-red lace edging that she was explicitly instructed to wear.
And waits in the bathroom.
And you brought us this text so you know exactly how tense this hotel encounter is.
But let's really look at the sensory details the author uses.
When the knock comes, the voice on the other side tells her to turn the light off before she comes out.
She steps into a room that is pitch black.
She literally stubs her toe because she can't see a thing.
And this stranger, this mystery man, who we later learn is Zeth, completely commands the space without even turning on a lamp.
Because she can't see, her other senses are dialed up to 11.
She notices her own perfume Aphresia, which is a floral scent.
But she immediately hones in on his scent.
Hints of mint in the ocean.
No smell of cigarettes, just something incredibly clean and imposing.
The sensory deprivation is a masterclass in shifting power dynamics.
By removing her sight, Zeth renders her entirely dependent on him for spatial awareness and safety.
He controls the entire environment.
Yet there's an immediate subversion of expectations that scrambles Sloane's brain.
She expects a sleazy guy who wants to poke and prod at what he's paying for.
Instead, Zeth is initially gentle.
He touches her hand, kisses her wrist, and tells her he won't use a fake name for her.
He says we'll just be strangers for a while.
But the danger is always simmering right below the surface.
He tells her, own me or I'll own you, and trust me, you don't want that.
The escalation in that dark room is terrifying.
But it's also deeply confusing for Sloane because of her physical reactions.
He restrains her, strapping her wrists and ankles to the bed.
And then he brings out a hunting knife.
He runs the flat, cool edge of the knife against her skin.
And then uses it to slice her bra open in a single sweep.
He even takes his belt off, loops it around her neck, and cinches it tight while he initiates oral sex.
Cutting off her windpipe just enough to induce hypoxia.
And we should probably clarify for those who might not be familiar with the terminology, what he's doing here is utilizing edge play.
Which is essentially pushing psychological and physical boundaries to the absolute brink of panic.
To force a physiological response.
By inducing hypoxia or oxygen deprivation, he is artificially heightening her physical arousal while simultaneously terrifying her.
It's conducted on a woman who is secretly a virgin, which makes the psychological impact staggering.
Zeth is utilizing fear as an aphrodisiac, controlling her oxygen, her mobility, and her sight.
But interspersed with this violence are strange, almost jarring moments of reverence.
He brushes the sweat-soaked hair out of her face.
He softly kisses her forehead.
He calls her a good girl.
Exactly. This cognitive dissonance.
The extreme physical threat paired with unexpected tenderness.
It short-circuits Sloane's typical threat response system, especially when paired with the Valium.
Her brain cannot categorize him simply as a threat because he is also providing comfort.
I think we have to pause and look at his reaction during the climax of the scene, because this is where the character of Zeth really starts to reveal himself.
When he actually initiates intercourse, the pain is intense for Sloane.
He stops, realizes what's happening, and inhales deeply.
He says, you probably shouldn't have kept that from me.
Wait, so he figures out she's a virgin after the fact, and he's actually disappointed.
Why does a hardened cartel enforcer suddenly care about the morality of this transaction?
It's a brilliant contradiction in his character.
Zeth's disappointment is rooted in his own complex moral code.
He thought he was purchasing the services of an experienced sex worker who had suggested this trade to Eli.
Discovering she was a virgin implies coercion on Eli's part.
Making Zeth an unwitting participant in a much darker violation than he intended.
In his mind, there are rules to the underworld.
Consenting adults engaging in transactional sex is one thing.
Stripping a desperate woman of her innocence through extortion is another.
He finishes the act, but the dynamic is entirely shifted.
When he leaves the light from the hallway, briefly illuminates him, and she gets one single glimpse.
The silhouette of his profile, dark mussed hair, a bruised pout, a worn leather jacket, and a black duffel bag.
He doesn't look back.
So Sloane survives this.
3 days go by, and Eli isn't answering his phone.
She skips her hospital rounds and treks across the city to his office above the liquor store in Rainier Valley.
The stairs are slick with ice.
And when she walks in without knocking, man, the grisly details in the source text are unforgettable.
You brought us this text, so you know exactly how brutal that scene in Eli's office is.
But reading it through this psychological lens, the smell, the bloated body, it's not just shock value.
It's the moment her hope literally rots in front of her.
The author really doesn't spare us here.
The smell hits Sloane first.
Eli is dead. His body is horribly bloated. a sickly gray color pressed up against his desk.
There's dried blood stained into the carpet and splattered on the walls.
His hands are purple-black from coagulated blood.
And he's been stabbed to death with his own letter opener, which is still sticking out of his chest.
But Sloane's reaction is what's truly compelling.
She isn't crying because Eli is dead.
She's crying because her only lead to her sister died with him.
She forces herself to step over the devastation over an upturned chair to reach a small filing cabinet.
She finds the file labeled Alexis Romera, missing person.
But when she opens it, it's completely empty.
Not a single sheet of paper.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the tragic irony is overwhelming.
Sloane sacrificed her most guarded piece of self, her physical intimacy, her virginity, her bodily autonomy, to a terrifying stranger.
For absolutely nothing.
The information she sold her soul for was either never there or it was taken.
And what does she do?
She throws up her dry toast sobbing.
She apologizes out loud to her missing sister.
But then she walks away.
She doesn't report the murder.
She leaves Eli to rot.
And she feels this twisted, dark sense of relief.
Because there's nothing more she can do.
She's hit an absolute dead end, and the crushing responsibility of finding Alexis is no longer hers.
That moment marks the death of the old Sloane.
By walking away from a murder scene, by accepting the void, she crosses a moral event horizon.
She is no longer the innocent, hopeful sister.
She has become an active participant in the darkness.
As she reflects on it later, she realizes she carved out her weakness with a rusty scalpel.
That emotional detachment she builds after Eli's murder.
We see exactly what that turns her into when the narrative jumps 2 years forward.
The story shifts to focus on the hitman and the doctor.
We officially meet Zeth Mayfair.
He's an enforcer for a British crime boss named Charlie who runs drugs and guns in the Pacific Northwest.
Zeth is entirely a product of his environment.
Charlie took him in when he was 6 years old to save him from a violently abusive uncle.
Zeth even notes that Charlie is an evil son of a bitch, but he's the evil son of a bitch who saved his life.
Zeth is the guy Charlie sends when someone loses a shipment of cocaine with the street value of a 5-bedroom house.
Zeth is the heavy artillery.
He is profoundly trauma-bonded to Charlie, viewing him as both a savior and a monster.
And Zeth has a companion living with him at his fortified warehouse, a young woman named Lacey.
She's tiny blonde and profoundly traumatized.
Zeth pays her to launder his money to give her a purpose, but she has severe codependency issues.
She won't let him leave her sight without panicking.
The dynamic between them is incredibly fraught.
Zeth isn't romantically involved with her, but he's fiercely protective of her.
Lacey serves as a brilliant mirror to the trauma we see in Sloane.
Where Sloane externalized her trauma into cold efficiency, Lacey internalized hers into self-destruction and total dependency.
Zeth acts as a twisted sort of savior figure for her, which highlights his contradictory nature.
He's a brutal killer, yet he harbors an intense instinct to protect broken women.
We see that brutality on full display when Zeth goes to Stanton Farm Markets to carry out a hit on a guy named Maddie.
It's raining typical Seattle gloom.
Zeth tells Lacey to wait in his Camaro.
He walks into the back office and catches Maddie getting oral sex from his junkie wife, Cindy.
Zeth throws his black duffel bag on the desk and pulls out brass knuckles.
But Maddie is ready.
Under the desk, Maddie has a .50 caliber Desert Eagle.
And he shoots Zeth right in the chest, 2 inches below the collarbone.
The physical resilience Zeth shows here is superhuman, fueled by adrenaline and a lifetime of violence.
Despite a catastrophic gunshot wound, Zeth leaps over the desk, wrestles the gun away, and beats Maddie with his brass knuckles.
Until Maddie's face is essentially crushed.
But it's what Maddie says through the blood bubbles on his lips that fundamentally alters the course of the story.
Maddie is pleading for his life, trying to explain why Charlie put the hit out on him.
He says it wasn't his fault.
He says you lock people inside a sealed shipping container for 3 days, they're going to die.
Zeth freezes. He asks what people.
Maddie reveals that Charlie has been bringing girls in through the docklands.
17 girls died in a container.
Maddie says Charlie gets 20 grand a pop if he can prove they're intact.
This revelation is a psychological earthquake for Zeth.
2 years prior, after killing Eli.
Because yes, the narrative confirms Zeth was the one who stabbed Eli with the letter opener as revenge for Eli tricking him into taking Sloane's virginity.
Exactly. Zeth had interrogated Eli about Sloane's sister.
Eli claimed Charlie took her.
Zeth confronted Charlie, and Charlie swore he didn't deal in the skin trade, only drugs and guns.
Zeth believed him.
Now, hearing Maddie's confession, Zeth connects the dots.
Charlie lied.
Charlie likely is the one who kidnapped Alexis.
Zeth realizes his own guilt in this.
He took Sloane's virginity under false pretenses, left her with no information, and walked away because he believed his boss was innocent of her sister's disappearance.
He executes Maddie with the Desert Eagle, leaving him with half a head.
Lacey, who somehow knew things went south, comes in to find him bleeding out.
She wants to take him to the hospital, but Zeth refuses.
He won't risk seeing Sloane again until he could beat the truth out of Charlie.
The way the narrative contrasts Zeth's world of violence with Sloane's world of medicine is masterful.
We transition back to Sloane to see who she's become over these 2 years.
She is now a hardened fifth-year resident at St. Peter's Mission of Mercy Hospital.
The text plunges us into a chaotic trauma room scene that perfectly illustrates her evolution.
I mean, I've had stressful days at work, but physically holding a patient together while leaping onto a gurney,
That is a whole different stratosphere of adrenaline.
it is so intense.
Sloane is literally standing over a dying patient, a victim of a motor vehicle accident.
Her hands are wrist-deep inside the man's crushed abdomen.
The patient is coding.
She yells at a terrified green intern named Mikey to run and prep the OR.
As they're wheeling the gurney to the elevator, Sloane physically grabs Mikey's hands and forces him to hold the patient's spilling intestines inside his body.
While she leaps onto the gurney to perform chest compressions.
She is a machine of pure, unadulterated efficiency.
Contrast this with the terrified girl in the pitch-black hotel room.
She notes internally that she is no longer that person.
The very first surgery she performed was on herself, removing her capacity for paralyzing fear and guilt.
She operates with a cold calculation that allows her to function in the face of immense trauma.
It's the ultimate manifestation of the dissociative emotional detachment we discussed earlier.
And it really shows when the patient Gary Saunders ultimately dies on the table.
Sloane feels no guilt.
She accepts that she's not God.
She takes on the grim task of delivering the death notice to Gary's pregnant wife.
For a split second, when she walks into the family room, she thinks the woman is her sister Lex, and she drops her chart.
But she quickly recovers.
She sits down, watches the woman enter denial, and delivers the news with absolute practiced detachment.
This detachment is her armor.
She has built an impenetrable wall between her emotions and her actions.
It's the only way she survives the dual pressures of her high-stakes medical career and the unresolved, agonizing grief of losing her sister.
But armor can only protect you for so long before someone finds a chink in it.
The way these two trajectories crash back together is cinematic.
Zeth recovers from his gunshot wound for 3 weeks and finally confronts Charlie.
The scene is unbelievably tense.
Charlie is this pumped-up 60-something British gangster smoking weed-laced cigarettes from a wooden fleur-de-lis box.
Zeth demands the truth about the 17 dead girls.
Charlie admits he had to pay off the Port Authority to make the bodies disappear.
Zeth pushes further, asking about the girl taken from Seattle 2.5 years ago. Charlie deflects, leaning on his old adage, I don't shit where I eat, I don't take locals.
But Charlie issues a thinly veiled threat.
He tells Zeth that if he keeps carrying this around, they are going to develop a problem.
Zeth leaves, knowing that a silent war has just been declared between him and the man who raised him.
Zeth rushes home because he's been gone all day, and he knows Lacey panics when he's away.
He speeds through the rain in his Camaro, gets to the warehouse, and finds the place trashed.
Smashed TV, broken bottles.
He searches frantically and finds Lacey in the bathroom.
She's slashed her wrists in the bathtub, and the water is crimson.
He wraps her in a blanket and breaks his own rule.
He drives her straight to St. Peter's Mission of Mercy Hospital.
Desperation forces his hand.
Zeth, desperate to save the broken woman he cares for, is forced to enter the domain of the broken woman he helped create.
It's the end of Sloane's grueling 20-hour shift.
She's literally steps away from freedom.
She walks out the sliding doors into the autumn wind, gets in her car, and starts to pull out.
Suddenly, Zeth's souped-up black Camaro screeches into the lot, nearly hitting her head-on.
She sees a guy in black pull a tiny girl with pink blood-soaked hair out of the car.
Her medical instinct kicks in.
She runs back inside to help save the girl's life.
It takes hours of surgery and blood transfusions.
At 5 a.m., Sloane goes to the waiting area to get a history from the guy who brought the girl in.
She finds Zeth sitting in the corridor.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
He tries to walk away fast. He refuses to look at her.
But she demands details.
When he finally speaks, the gravelly bass of his voice hits her like a physical blow.
She recognizes it immediately from that dark hotel room 2 years ago,
He pays $23,000 in cash for Lacey's treatment,
using the alias Kay Vonnegut.
a nod to the
Uh-huh.
Sogos tattoo he has on his chest.
Sloane confronts him.
She points her finger at his chest and says, "You. Did you have anything to do with Eli's death? Did you take Lex's paperwork?"
And Zeth snaps.
He grabs her wrist, shoves her hard against the wall, and pins her by the throat.
Notice the immediate return to physical dominance.
He uses the threat of violence to regain control of the situation.
He demands that she treat the girl who he calls Carrie and explicitly warns her not to let Psych near her.
But the psychological chess match deepens here.
He asks Sloane if she remembers the dark room.
He tells her to close her eyes.
She actually obeys. She closes her eyes, and he brushes his lips against hers.
He breathes into her mouth, his tongue darting out to taste her lips.
It scrambles her brain entirely.
She leans in, rising on her tiptoes, but he pulls back.
He tells her, 2 days, Sloane. 2 days, and I'm coming for you.
And then he walks away, leaving her sinking to the floor.
Zeth uses her sensory memory of the dark room to paralyze her.
From a psychological standpoint, this is classical conditioning.
A Pavlovian response.
He has wired her brain to associate his voice, his scent, and darkness with a terrifying mix of fear and extreme arousal.
By making her close her eyes, he instantly transports her back to the moment of her greatest vulnerability and her greatest surrender.
He asserts dominance while simultaneously securing the best possible care for Lacey.
It's manipulative,
Yeah.
highly effective, and it proves that the bond forged in that hotel room is still incredibly potent.
The next day, Sloane meets her best friend Pippa for coffee at Fresco's.
Pippa is a psychologist who deals with violent offenders.
Sloane finally confesses what happened 2 years ago.
The bargain, the dark room, the stranger.
And she reveals that the stranger was at the hospital and choked her against a wall.
Pippa is horrified.
She begs Sloane to stay far, far away from this dangerous, unhinged man.
Sloane agrees to stay away, but internally she knows she's lying.
She knows he's coming back.
Sloane's deception of her best friend highlights how deeply she is being drawn back into Zeth's orbit.
Despite the obvious danger, the promise of information about her sister, combined with the undeniable toxic magnetism of Zeth himself, overrides all of her logical faculties.
Back at the hospital, Sloane checks on Carrie or Lacey.
The hospital psychiatrist Kim Dixon is trying to assess her, but Carrie plays dead.
When Kim leaves, Sloane tries to talk to Carrie.
Carrie breaks down, revealing ice blue eyes full of tears.
She refuses traditional therapy.
She says she just needs Zeth.
She threatens that if the shrink comes back, she won't mess up the suicide attempt next time.
Here we see Sloane face a profound moral compromise.
As a doctor, she took an oath to do no harm.
She knows this girl needs intensive psychiatric intervention.
But she also recognizes the genuine terror in Carrie's eyes.
To save the girl's life from immediate self-harm, Sloane breaks protocol.
She makes a deal.
She tells Carrie she will leave the room for 3 hours on rounds and leaves her personal cell phone so Carrie can call a friend.
Hoping Carrie will call Pippa for off-the-books therapy.
But when Sloane returns, the bed is empty.
Carrie has escaped, and she took Sloane's phone with her.
Now I have to ask you, do we really think Sloane did this purely out of empathy for Lacey?
Or did she do it because she knew it would create a tether to Zeth?
I think it's a deeply subconscious mix of both.
Sloane allowed a suicidal patient to flee medical care, a decision driven by empathy, but fraught with massive professional and ethical peril.
However, Sloane also admits to herself that giving up the phone was a strategic move.
She correctly guessed that Carrie would use it to call Zeth, meaning Zeth's number would now be logged in Sloane's device, giving her a tiny sliver of leverage.
She wanted a reason to contact him.
Which catapults the narrative right into its darkest sequence.
Zeth now has Sloane's phone, and they start texting.
Zeth texts her, "That phone is on a plan. Be good to get it back."
Sloane demands an address, threatening to send the cops.
Zeth calls her bluff.
He gives her an address, apartment 12C 515 West Ave, 8:00 p.m.
He tells her to wear something nice and short and leave the cops at home.
This raises an important question for you, the listener.
Why does she actually go?
Is she going to retrieve a replaceable cell phone?
Is she going solely because she thinks he has information about her sister?
Or is she going because the darkness Zeth represents is calling out to the darkness within her?
I think it's all of the above, but that last part is undeniable.
She dresses in the shortest, slinkiest black dress she owns, complete with stockings and a garter belt, and brings her medical bag just in case Carrie is there.
She arrives at the luxury apartment building and takes the elevator up.
At the end of the hall, she meets Michael, a massive, impeccably dressed, 6'5" man with icy blue eyes.
He's the doorman.
Michael tells her Zeth is in the back room, but she has to wear a mask to enter.
The mask is a recurring motif in literature and psychology, heavily rooted in Jungian shadow theory.
It enforces anonymity and removes the self, preparing the participant to cross societal boundaries without the burden of everyday identity.
It harks back directly to the dark room. If you cannot be seen for who you truly are, you are free to act out your deepest, darkest impulses without judgment.
She chooses a black mask with a metallic green-purple feather.
Michael opens the door, and Sloane's jaw drops.
It is a sprawling, high-end gangbang and BDSM party.
There are 50 people in various states of undress leather bindings, open sexual acts happening on the furniture.
Michael smirks and tells her that Zeth bet him $1,000 that she wouldn't make it through the room.
He thinks she'll run.
Now, is Zeth really trying to protect her here?
Or is he just testing his own absolute power over her by seeing how much depravity she'll walk through just to get to them?
I think it's a brilliant toxic mix of both.
Zeth's motivation is incredibly complex.
By exposing her to the extreme reality of his sexual tastes and his world, he is trying to terrify her into running away.
He knows she doesn't belong in his violent, depraved sphere, and pushing her away is his twisted way of keeping her safe.
But subconsciously, by placing the bet, he is daring her to prove him wrong.
He desperately wants her to stay, and he wants her to accept him exactly as he is, monsters and all.
And she does.
Driven by fury and defiance, she grips her medical bag and wades through a sea of bodies past open doors with moaning couples to the last room on the right.
The lights are off.
Zeth steps out of the shadows wearing a terrifying devil mask with horns and a downturned mouth dressed in a sharp black suit.
He calls her pet.
She demands her phone and asks what he knows about her sister.
The confrontation in this dark room is visceral.
Zeth challenges her refusal to participate.
He takes off his mask, takes off his suit jacket, and rips off his tank top.
He stands before her covered in tattoos and shows her his scars.
He points to his abdomen where he was stabbed, the jagged purple scars where he was stabbed again, and the fresh red bullet wound near his collarbone.
He asks her, if your sister has been sucked into this world, do you think she survived it?
Sloane reacts physically.
She slaps him so hard she splits his lip.
Zeth grabs her, picks her up, and dumps her on his bed.
He tells her he doesn't force women.
He gives her an ultimatum. She can leave right now and forget everything, or she can stay, but only if she answers him honestly.
He hovers an inch from her face and asks, are you strong enough to admit that this is what you want? Are you brave enough to find out?
This is the critical psychological breaking point for Sloane.
She realizes that she is utterly exhausted.
For 2 years, she has been the strong, detached doctor.
She has held the grief of her sister's disappearance entirely on her own shoulders.
At this moment, the desire to surrender control,
To let someone else, even a monster like Zeth, take the reins,
is overwhelming.
she realizes that yielding doesn't make her weak. In this twisted context, accepting her desires requires a terrifying kind of strength.
She sits on the edge of the bed and agrees.
The scene that follows is explicit physical and psychological submission.
Zeth makes her strip down to the provocateur black lace underwear she purposely wore.
He binds her wrists and ankles to the bed with heavy leather cuffs.
He pulls out his hunting knife, running the steel over her skin, terrifying her.
But then he flips the blade, gripping the sharp edge so hard, his own hand bleeds, and uses the smooth handle inside her.
The symbolism of the knife is potent.
It represents the constant threat of death and violence in his world.
But by turning the blade on himself and using the handle to bring her pleasure, he is showing her that he will absorb the damage to keep her safe.
It's a blood oath of protection masked as a BDSM scene.
And it gets even more intense.
A couple from the party enters the room, a guy in a tiger mask, and a blonde woman.
Zeth doesn't stop them.
The blonde woman actually gets on the bed and begins servicing Sloane orally while her partner takes her from behind.
Zeth stands over them, completely naked, watching Sloane writhe.
He refuses to touch her until she verbally begs him.
She begs, "Make me yours."
He unties her, carries her down the hall to his private locked bedroom, and they have incredibly intense, passionate sex in the dark.
The morning after, however, brings the harsh light of reality.
The illusion of the dark room is broken.
Sloane wakes up in a strange bed, remembers everything, and the shame and panic set in.
She realizes she willingly participated in a world she finds abhorrent.
She storms out to the living room, which is a destroyed bomb site of empty glasses and discarded clothes.
She finds Zeth looking out the window over the city.
She loses her mind.
She throws a champagne flute at his head.
She throws a high heel at his chest.
She demands her underwear back.
Zeth is maddeningly calm.
He tells her he's keeping the underwear because she wore them for him, so they belong to him now.
Sloane tries to reclaim the moral high ground.
She tells him she isn't looking for a sexual awakening, she's looking for her sister.
And maybe one day he'll develop a conscience and tell her what he knows because it's the right thing to do.
Zeth's response is a chilling summary of his worldview.
A conscience will get you killed in my line of work, Sloane. Doing the right thing often has the same effect.
The fallout from this night sets the stage for the final revelations in these sources.
Zeth is furious after Sloane leaves.
He tells Michael, the doorman, to email the group and cancel all future parties.
Why? Because the idea of sleeping with anyone else suddenly feels pointless to him.
He is entirely fixated on Sloane.
This fixation is dangerous for a man in his position.
Emotional attachment is a vulnerability his enemies can exploit.
But he can't help himself.
Meanwhile, Michael drops a massive piece of intelligence on him.
He says they heard from a contact named Benji who sent a blurry photo.
The photo is of a young girl in an oversized t-shirt with a mass of dark, wavy hair.
It's Alexis.
But the news is terrible.
Lex is alive, yes, but she is working out of a notorious Black Talons compound in L.A. run by a major cartel pimp named Jacob Dixon.
The Black Talons are allies of Charlie.
Zeth immediately recognizes the gravity of this situation.
If Alexis has been surviving in a cartel compound for 2 years, she is fundamentally irrevocably changed.
Furthermore, Jacob Dixon is a monster.
Zeth realizes that extracting her is going to be near impossible.
If he goes down there with an armed team, he starts a gang war with Jacob Dixon, which will immediately draw Charlie's wrath.
He needs a stealthy, covert plan, but he has no idea how to execute it yet.
Despite this overwhelming problem, Zeth's immediate focus is claiming Sloane.
He sends Michael to St. Peter's Hospital.
Michael finds Sloane, terrifies an intern named Mikey in the process, and hands Sloane a thick black envelope with gold writing.
Inside is a small brass padlock key and a note commanding her to put it on her keychain and give Michael the key to her apartment.
This is a blatant territorial claim.
Zeth is invading her safe space and forcing her to accept his presence in her life.
Sloane initially refuses.
She calls Zeth from her phone, ready to reject the demand entirely.
But Zeth uses his leverage masterfully.
He reminds her of the surrender from the night before.
He tells her he won't sleep with anyone else ever again, essentially vowing a twisted form of fidelity.
He warns her not to bother running because he will just come find her.
He wears her down, and she realizes she is exhausted from fighting.
She gives Michael her apartment key.
And precisely at the moment of her submission, when she accepts this terrifying new reality, Zeth delivers the ultimate psychological blow.
He drops the bombshell she has waited 2 years to hear.
He says, she's alive.
Boo.
The world shifts on its axis.
But the narrative leaves us with one final, deeply unsettling scene to close out these sources.
We jump back to Zeth sleeping in his warehouse.
He is jolted awake by a broom handle jabbing him in the ribs.
He leaps up, ready to kill, but stops when he sees Lacey standing in the doorway in her threadbare pink robe.
The detail that really caught me off guard was the sheer tragedy of Lacey's confession in this moment.
Zeth asks her why she tried to kill herself.
Lacey breaks down and explains the true horror of her existence.
It isn't the nightmares anymore.
It isn't the fear.
The deepest, most terrifying betrayal is that she wakes up from dreams of her past abuse and she isn't scared.
Her body has accepted it.
Her body has started to enjoy the echoes of the trauma.
She tells Zeth dying is the only thing I'm afraid of these days. And I need to be afraid. I need to not feel like I do. I'd rather be dead.
It is an absolutely gut-wrenching admission.
It leaves Zeth entirely silent, staring at this broken girl, realizing there are some wounds he cannot punch, shoot, or buy his way out of.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the themes we've been tracking.
Trauma forces the brain to adapt to survive.
But when survival requires you to surrender your autonomy, or when your mind begins to find comfort in the very darkness that destroyed you, you are faced with an impossible crisis of identity.
Which brings us to the end of our deep dive into these sources.
The tension in these chapters is incredible.
We have a missing sister, found deep within a cartel compound.
A ruthless hitman catching unwanted feelings that could get them all killed.
And a trauma doctor who has just handed over the keys to her life to a monster.
I want you to reflect on this. Think about the nature of choices made in the dark.
How often do we make bargains thinking we are totally in control, only to find that the labyrinth is closed behind us?
And I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over building on that.
Consider how both Sloane and Lacey represent two sides of the exact same coin. We discuss how trauma forces adaptation, but at what point does that adaptation become assimilation? When survival requires you to accept the unacceptable, when you find a strange comfort in the darkness that previously terrified you, at what point does the victim stop being a captive and start becoming a willing permanent resident of the underworld?
That is a heavy, fascinating question to leave us on. Thank you so much for bringing this material to us, and thank you for joining this custom-tailored deep dive. We hope it gave you exactly the insights you were looking for. Until next time.